At 66, I thought I had seen every storm life could throw at me. I had built bridges and highways across Illinois, worked 40 years as a civil engineer, raised my only daughter Bella after losing my husband Diego to cancer. But nothing prepared me for the moment my phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m. on a quiet April night. The message glowed on the screen, 10 words that cut deeper than any accident I had ever surveyed on a construction site. I'd rather lose my mother than lose my husband. For a long moment, I simply stared at it, unable to breathe. Bella, my Bella, the center of my world, had chosen to type those words with her own hands. In the dim lamplight, I reached instinctively for the old steel measuring tape that still lay on my desk from my working days. I clicked it open and shut, open and shut, the metallic snap echoing the crack in my heart. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story of revenge from. I want to know how far it has reached. Rewind a few months, and the picture had seemed so different. Bella was 32, smart, ambitious, planning the wedding of her dreams at a coastal resort. The budget was staggering. $120, 0, 0, 0. But I had agreed to cover every cent. After all, I had saved carefully for decades, and Diego and I had always promised Bella a start in life, free of financial worry. On top of that, I was preparing a $150, 000 down payment for the condo she and her fiancé Adrian would live in after the wedding. Adrian Cortez had swept into our lives with tailored suits and smooth words. He claimed to work in digital marketing, always talking about new opportunities and NFT investments. I wanted to believe him for Bella's sake, but cracks began to show evasive answers about money. His constant glances at his phone during dinner, the way he steered conversations away whenever I mentioned savings. Then came the call that ripped the veil away. A collection agency reached me at my downtown office asking if I knew how to contact Adrian. According to their files, he owed $62, 500 inches, sports betting, and crypto gambling debts. My number was listed as a reference. I remember hanging up my hand, trembling so violently that the blueprint I was reviewing slid to the floor. That evening, as I combed through the wedding account statements Bella had accidentally left in my kitchen, my heart sank further. Dozens of transfers, $400, $900, $1, $200 to shady digital wallets. The evidence was irrefutable. Adrian was no investor. He was a gambler. Worse, he was using Bella's accounts to fuel his addiction. As I clicked, the tape measure shut one final time. I knew I had a choice: stay silent and watch my daughter walk into ruin, or act, even if it meant becoming the villain in her story. I chose to act. The night I found those transfers, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Bella's smiling face at the resort during our last planning visit. She had been radiant, holding up swatches of silk and debating flower arrangements, completely unaware that the man by her side was siphoning her future. By dawn, my resolve had hardened. If Adrian thought he could hide behind smooth words and fake confidence, he had chosen the wrong mother-in-law. I had spent a lifetime studying structural failures. I knew how to read the small cracks that warned of a collapse. At breakfast, I lined up the bank statements highlighting the transactions that matched known betting platforms. The names were unmistakable: Betfair Draft Zone, Lucky 888. Adrian had disguised them as digital services, but a quick search confirmed what they really were: online casinos and sports betting sites. I made photocopies of everything. Experience had taught me that paper was harder to deny than words. Each document slid into a labeled folder, debts, transactions, collection calls. My desk looked like a crime scene, except the victim wasn't me. It was Bella. At noon, I confided in my younger sister Marina. She had always been sharp about people far more intuitive than I. When I showed her the files, her eyes narrowed. Ruth, I don't like the way this adds up. Remember Christmas dinner, Adrian kept asking about your pension and investments. It felt calculated. Her words struck me. I had brushed off his questions at the time, thinking he was just making conversation. Now viewed through this lens, it was predatory curiosity. Later that afternoon, I decided to test Adrian's story. He often claimed to work long hours at a boutique marketing firm downtown. I called the office posing as a potential client. After a pause, the receptionist replied, "I'm sorry, we don't have anyone by that name here." My blood turned cold. Adrian wasn't just hiding debts. He was lying about his very identity. When Bella came over that evening to drop off more wedding catalogs, I watched her carefully. She was glowing, humming, as she flipped through a binder of floral designs. My heart ached. She had no idea. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shout the truth. But instinct told me timing mattered. Instead, I asked softly, "Honey, how's Adrian holding up with work these days?" She smiled. "Busy as always. He says he's closing a big deal next week." "Why?" I forced a smile, sliding the folder deeper under the table. "Just curious." That night alone again, I laid the tape measure across the documents like a steel line. The evidence was clear. The only question left was how to show Bella without losing her forever. 2 sleepless nights later, I knew I couldn't delay any longer. The folders on my desk had grown heavier, as if each page carried the weight of a wrecked foundation. If I didn't intervene, Bella would step into a marriage built on sand, and I would have no one to blame but myself. I invited her to dinner on Friday. I cooked her favorite paella with saffron, the way Diego used to make it on special occasions. I wanted the comfort of family around us, even if the words I had prepared would shatter her world. When Bella arrived, she dropped her purse on the sofa and kissed my cheek. "Smells amazing, Mom. You didn't have to go all out." "I did," I replied quietly, setting 2 plates on the table. "We need to talk." Her smile faded. About what I placed the first folder between us. My hands didn't shake, though my heart pounded. "About Adrian." Bella rolled her eyes. "Oh God, here we go again. You've never liked him." "This isn't about liking him. It's about facts." I slid the bank statement across the table. "Do you recognize these transfers?" She picked up the paper, scanning the lines. Her expression changed: confusion, then discomfort, then anger. This must be some mistake. "Adrian told me these were crypto investments." "Crypto investments don't run through betting sites, Bella. Draft Zone is not a trading platform." Her voice rose. "You've been snooping through my accounts. You left the documents here, sweetheart. I didn't go looking. They found me." She slammed the folder shut. "He explained this. You just don't understand modern finance." I leaned forward, my voice low but steady. "Then explain why a collection agency called me about his $62,500 debt. Why my number is listed as his reference. Why the company he claims to work for has never heard of him." Bella froze. Her fork slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the plate. "That's not possible," she whispered. "He goes to the office every day." "Think about it," I urged. "The missed dinners, the constant phone checks, the evasive answers. He's hiding Bella, hiding from you." Tears welled in her eyes, but she shook her head violently. "No, you're twisting things. He loves me. He wants to give me a future." I reached across the table, placing my scarred engineer's hand over hers. And love does not drain your bank account or lie about who you are marrying. She pulled her hand away, eyes blazing. If you force me to choose, Mom, you won't like the answer. The echo of her words lingered long after she stormed out, leaving the paella untouched. The silence after Bella slammed the door was suffocating. The untouched paella sat on the table steam, fading into nothing. I sat there for a long time, staring at the steel tape measure I had left coiled beside the folders. Click. Snap. The sound reminded me that structures survive only when boundaries are enforced. By Monday morning, I knew what had to be done. If Bella refused to see reason now, I needed leverage to protect her future, even against her will. I called Samuel Park, my attorney of 15 years. He had guided me through real estate deals, pension arrangements, even Diego's estate after his passing. When I explained the situation, his tone shifted from casual to razor sharp. Ruth, let's meet this afternoon. Bring every document you have. At 4:00 p.m., I sat in his office, a space lined with shelves of thick law books. I spread the folders across his polished desk like evidence in a trial. Samuel adjusted his glasses and scanned the papers. This is more than gambling, he muttered after a few minutes. You have proof of deception, possible fraud, and misuse of funds. And all the wedding contracts are under your name, yes. Every vendor, every payment, every receipt. He leaned back, steepling his fingers. Then you have control. You can cancel the entire wedding if you choose with only minor penalties. Legally, Bella and Adrian have no standing to sue you. Emotionally, however. He paused. That will be another battle. I nodded grimly. I can withstand her anger. What I cannot withstand is watching her life collapse because I stayed silent. Samuel began drafting a plan. First, contact the venue and caterer, those held the largest sums. Next, the florist, the band, the photographer. Finally, freeze the joint wedding accounts and secure Bella's credit to prevent Adrian from exploiting her identity further. Move fast, he warned. A man this desperate may escalate. Protect your daughter, even if she doesn't see it now. As I left his office folder clutched against my chest, the city skyline stretched above me. I had spent my career ensuring structures didn't crumble under hidden stress. Now, I faced the most personal project of all, keeping my daughter's life from collapsing. That evening, I dialed the first number, the resort where Bella's dream wedding was to be held. My voice didn't tremble. This is Ruth Alvarez. I'm calling to cancel our event. The gasp on the other end of the line was sharp. But Mrs. Alvarez, the wedding is only 6 weeks away. Yes, I said firmly, clicking the tape measure shut in my other hand. And it will not happen. The morning after I called the resort, I woke before dawn. My coffee sat untouched as I lined up the stack of contracts on my desk. Each page represented not just money, but months of planning dreams. Bella had clung to illusions. Adrian had happily encouraged while draining her accounts. At 9:00 sharp, I called the resort manager again to formalize the cancellation. She tried every tactic, sympathy, guilt, even veiled pressure. Mrs. Alvarez, you'll lose nearly $4, 0 inches, non-refundable fees. Are you sure? I'm sure, I said, my pen steady, as I signed the cancellation forms. Better to lose thousands now than hundreds of thousands later. By noon, I had repeated the process with the catering company and florist. The combined penalties climbed to nearly $9,800. Each figure stung, but Samuel was right. Compared to the $110,000 I had just protected, it was a small price. Still, The hardest call came at 3 o'clock to the dealership, preparing Bella's wedding gift, a brand new SUV. Cancel all modifications, I told the salesman. The vehicle remains in my name. There was a long pause. But your daughter specifically requested custom leather seating and sound upgrades. She seemed so excited. My throat tightened, but I forced the words out. Excitement doesn't pay for honesty. Invoice me for the work. I'll collect the car this week. When I hung up, the silence in my house pressed in like concrete. Each action I took felt like chiseling away at Bella's happiness. Yet beneath the pain lay a grim satisfaction. Adrian's plans were collapsing. That evening, I logged into the joint wedding account one last time before closing it. The balance showed $18.400 remaining. But something else caught my eye. 3 cash withdrawals spaced 2 weeks apart. $500, $900, $1, $400. All authorized under Bella's card. I pressed a hand against my chest. She had been helping him, probably thinking she was supporting her fiancé in some emergency. Adrian wasn't just draining her savings. He had turned her into his unwitting accomplice. I closed the account immediately and transferred the funds back to my own name. Tomorrow, Samuel and I would also place a fraud alert on Bella's credit report. Adrian might try to use her identity next, and I would not let him. As the sun dipped behind the skyline, I reached for the steel tape measure again. Its metallic snap echoed in the empty room. A line had been drawn, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was finally on the offensive. The day after I closed the wedding accounts, Marina stopped by my house unannounced. She carried a manila folder under her arm and wore that expression she always had when she was about to tell me something unpleasant but necessary. "Ruth," she said, "the moment I opened the door, I've been asking around, and you need to sit down." We settled at the kitchen table, the same table where Bella had once done her school projects, where Diego and I had planned our retirement. Marina spread out several printed pages and photographs. First, she began. I called in a favor from a friend in HR at the company Adrian claims to work for. "Ruth, they've never had an employee by that name. He's been lying about his job the entire time." My stomach dropped, even though part of me had already suspected it. "So where does he go every day when he says he's at work? That's the second thing." Marina slid over a copy of a rental agreement. "He's been paying $50 a month to use a virtual office downtown. That's where he gets his mail. He's created a facade of legitimacy." The folder's next page made my blood run cold. A testimonial from a woman named Patricia Mendoza. She had dated Adrian 2 years earlier. According to her bank statements, he had convinced her to lend him nearly $19,000 under the guise of temporary investments. When she confronted him, he disappeared overnight. He left her with nothing but excuses and a trail of lies. Marina explained grimly. "It's the same pattern he's using with Bella." I clenched the steel tape measure in my hand until the metal edge cut into my palm. "He's not just a gambler. He's a predator." Marina hesitated before showing me the final piece of evidence. A series of texts and receipts from a woman named Lucia Ramos, a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. "He's been living with her part-time," Marina whispered. "She thinks he's planning a future with her too, and she's already lent him over $8,000 for so-called family emergencies." For a moment, the room tilted. Bella wasn't just engaged to a liar, she was one of several women orbiting around his scams. I stared at the papers, my chest burning with fury and grief. Bella will not believe me unless she hears it from another victim. "We need to contact this Lucia." Marina nodded. "I've already arranged it. She's willing to talk." As I looked at the growing pile of evidence, the tape measure snapped shut in my hands. Adrian had built his life on deceit, but every lie had a crack. And I was ready to break them all open. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days after Marina revealed Adrian's web of lies, he showed up at my doorstep. The knock came just after sunset, loud and insistent, as though he owned the very wood of the door. When I opened it, he stood there in a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up tie loose, trying to look casual. But his eyes, those sharp, restless eyes, betrayed him. "Mrs. Alvarez," he began, with forced politeness, "we need to talk." I let him in, not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear what he would try next. He paced the living room, glancing at the family photos on the wall. Diego's smile stared back at him, a silent witness. "Bella's upset," Adrian said finally. "She thinks you're trying to sabotage our relationship." "Why are you doing this?" I held up the folder Marina had prepared. "Because I know who you are, and soon Bella will too." His confident smirk faltered. "I don't know what you mean." I flipped open the folder, laying the documents across the coffee table like playing cards in a deadly game. "Let's start with the HR report. You don't work at that marketing firm." "Never have." He stiffened, but recovered quickly. "Small misunderstanding. I'm a contractor. They don't list me on official payroll." "Then what about this?" I slid Patricia Mendoza's testimony toward him. $19,000 you borrowed from her under fake promises. When she pressed you for repayment, you vanished. His jaw clenched, and here I continued tossing down Lucia Ramos's receipts. $8,000 she gave you for so-called emergencies. You've been splitting time between her apartment and my daughter's bed. Which one was the investment, Adrian? He slammed his hand on the table, rattling the frames. "You're digging into things you don't understand, old woman." I didn't flinch. The tape measure in my pocket clicked open and shut my anchor of steel. "What I understand is this. You're a gambler, a liar, and a predator. And you will not destroy Bella's life." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a hiss. "She loves me. She'll choose me over you no matter what you show her." I met his gaze evenly. "Then let her see the truth. If her love survives, that maybe she's not the daughter I raised." For a moment, the mask slipped. His smile twisted into a snarl, revealing the man beneath the polish. "You'll regret this," he spat before storming out, slamming the door so hard the glass panes trembled. I stood alone in the silence, but I felt no fear. The mask was gone. And once Bella saw what I had seen, there would be no going back. The night after Adrian stormed out, I barely slept. His words, "You'll regret this," replayed in my head, but instead of fear, they ignited resolve. I had built bridges strong enough to withstand earthquakes. I would not let my daughter's life collapse because of one man's lies. At dawn, I called Samuel Park, my lawyer. "He confronted me," I said. "He threatened me. I want this on record." By noon, we were sitting in his office, police officer present, as I handed over the folder Marina had compiled. Bank statements, testimony from Patricia, receipts from Lucia, even a copy of Adrian's fake rental agreement. The officer's expression darkened with each page. "This isn't just gambling," he said finally. "This is a pattern of fraud. We'll open an investigation immediately. If he contacts you again, document everything." That night, my phone buzzed 6 missed calls from Bella, then a 7th. I answered. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Adrian says you're spreading lies. He says you hired people to dig up fake evidence." "Bella, listen to me," I pleaded. "I didn't hire anyone. These are real victims. He's done this before, Patricia, Lucia. Do you think they're all lying?" Silence. Then I don't know what to believe anymore." She hung up. The next day, Marina called. Lucia is willing to meet Bella, face to face. She wants to warn her too. I arranged the meeting at my house, afraid Bella wouldn't show. But at 7 that evening, she walked through the door, pale and tense, with Adrian's shadow still clinging to her. Moments later, Lucia arrived. The two women stared at each other. One in her 30s, the other not yet 30, both carrying the same wounds. Lucia spoke first. "He told me my money was for his mother's surgery. There was no surgery. He said he loved me, that we were building a future. Then he stole my grandmother's jewelry and vanished." Bella's eyes filled with tears. "He told me he wanted to buy us a condo. He said he was working overtime for our future." Lucia shook her head. "He was gambling with everything, and he was planning to use your mother's money to cover his debts. I saw it, written in his notebook." She pulled out a photograph of the page Bella's name job, and next to it the words, "Target $80K, $120K. Bella's face crumpled. "So I was just a number." I reached for her hand this time. She didn't pull away. "No, sweetheart. You are my daughter, and you're worth more than every dollar he ever schemed for." At that moment, the sound of a car engine roared outside. Headlights slashed across the curtains. "Adrian." Bella froze. "He's here." I stood, steel tape measure in my pocket, my resolve unshakable. Let him come. This time he won't leave with lies. He'll leave in handcuffs. The knock on the door rattled the frame. It was not polite, not cautious. It was the pounding of a man who felt his world slipping through his fingers. Bella's hand tightened around mine, trembling. Lucia's face turned pale. I motioned for them to stay quiet as I opened the door. Adrian stood there, disheveled, his shirt untucked, eyes bloodshot. The polished mask was gone. He looked like the addict he truly was. "Where is she?" he demanded, pushing past me before I could stop him. "Bella, you have to listen to me. Your mother is poisoning you against me." Bella rose slowly from the couch, her eyes red from crying. "Adrian, enough. I know about Patricia, about Lucia, about the notebook. Was I just another target?" For a moment, his jaw tightened, and I saw him search for a new lie. But Lucia stepped forward, holding up the photograph of his ledger. I saw it with my own eyes. "You wrote her down like a number, Adrian. How many more women are on your list?" His face contorted with rage. "You stupid women don't understand," he shouted, slamming his fist against the wall. "I gave you love, attention, dreams, and all I asked for was support while I worked things out. That's what couples do. That's not love," Bella said quietly. "That's exploitation." I pulled out my phone and dialed the officer's direct line. Adrian noticed. He lunged toward me, but I stepped back, the steel tape measure snapping open in my hand like a blade. "Touch me, and you'll regret it," I warned. He froze, eyes flicking between the tape measure and my steady glare. For the first time, I saw hesitation crack through his anger. Moments later, headlights swept the driveway again, this time red and blue. The officer I had spoken to entered with two colleagues. "Mr. Adrian Cortez, one," announced firmly. "You're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and making criminal threats." Adrian spun around, desperation wild in his eyes. "Bella, don't let them do this. Tell them you love me. Tell them this is all a misunderstanding." Bella shook her head, tears streaking down her face. "No, Adrian. You don't love me. You love my money, and I won't be your victim anymore." The officers cuffed him as he cursed, kicking against the hardwood. His voice grew smaller as they dragged him out until only silence remained. Lucia collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief. Bella turned to me, her body shaking. "Mom, I almost married him. I almost gave him everything." I wrapped my arms around her, whispering, "You gave him nothing that cannot be rebuilt. What matters is that you saw the truth before it was too late." For the first time in weeks, Bella clung to me without resistance. In that embrace, I felt the bridge between us, mending stronger, reinforced by pain, but no longer breakable by lies. The house was quiet again after the squad car pulled away, its flashing lights fading into the night. Bella and I sat together in the living room, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on us. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the faint tick of the wall clock Diego had hung decades earlier. Finally, Bella whispered, "Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I chose him over you. I even wrote that text." Her voice cracked. "I said I'd rather lose my mother than lose him. How can you still hold me now?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out the steel tape measure. With a soft click, the blade shot out, glinting in the lamplight. "Do you know why I keep this?" I asked. She shook her head, tears spilling. "It reminds me that strength doesn't mean being unbreakable. It means bending, flexing, and then snapping back into place. You bent under Adrian's lies, Bella, but you didn't break, and neither did we." She stared at the tape measure, then at me, as if the symbolism finally reached her. "I almost lost everything." "No," I said firmly. "He almost took everything. But what matters is what you learned. Money can be earned again. Cars, venues, dresses, they're just objects. The real inheritance I give you isn't money or property. It's dignity. It's the courage to walk away from anyone who tries to control you through deceit." She wiped her eyes, nodding slowly. In the days that followed, Bella began therapy. She faced the truth of manipulation and admitted how much she had ignored the warning signs. It wasn't easy. There were nights she cried herself to sleep in her old bedroom, but each morning she rose a little stronger. I returned to my workbench in the garage where I had stored Diego's old tools. The smell of oil and wood shavings grounded me. Just as I once built bridges that carried thousands safely across rivers, now I was building something less visible, but equally vital resilience within my daughter. Adrian's trial came swiftly. With testimony from Patricia Lucia and other women along with the ledger notebook, the evidence was overwhelming. He accepted a plea bargain, nearly 4 years in prison, and restitution to victims. When Bella read the verdict, she whispered, "Justice isn't just about punishment, it's about finally being free." Months later, as spring flowers bloomed in the garden, Diego once tended Bella and I stood side by side. She had enrolled in an evening course on forensic accounting, determined never to be deceived again. I couldn't have been prouder. I closed my journal that night with one